time I come on the show, there's baby pressure.
I'm trying to pressure him because he's going to be a great dad. You know, raising our kids, it's a blessing. It's also really stressful. So how do you deal with that? 40 million people suffer from an anxiety disorder, and 1 out of every 5 adults takes medication for a behavioral or psychological disorder. Well, this month, Parenting Magazine tackles that issue, and the author, Sean Bean, joining me now. Sean, what did you discover that made this topic worth writing about? And the title of the article is Xanax helps make me a better mom. Caught our attention.
Yeah. Hey, Kara. No, it's interesting because, as you just quoted, those stats are pretty staggering, not to mention that 1 in 10 Americans is depressed. So what we wanted to do at Parenting was really look at this topic through the parenting lens. And what we found out is that parents, specifically moms of multiples, pregnant and new moms, dads, all suffer anxiety and depression at higher rates than the general population. And that headline, by the way, is a direct quote from a mom. Xanax helps me be a better mom. And,
you know, we're actually going to talk to one of those moms in just a couple of minutes. But, you know, you've received a lot of comments online. I was going through, and it's getting pretty darn feisty. Just a couple of comments, Sean. I've seen 2 lives destroyed over their addiction to pills like these. Another viewer wrote in, good for you, but as someone who watched an ex-wife cycle on and off depression meds for years, I know how tough this can be. Why do you think this subject matter is striking such a nerve?
Well, I think it's about our kids, right? I mean, it's about our most precious cargo. And I think that's what takes this to a new level. And that's, you know, as we were talking about with the numbers getting sky high, there's a question about whether or not moms are really taking the medication because they really need it, or are they medicating the everyday emotional roller coaster of parenthood? Now, when you look at those descriptions of what would classify someone as depressed, insomnia, problems, you know, with sleeping, problems eating, irritability, losing interest in activities that they once liked. I mean, that describes half the parents I know. So the question becomes, where's the line between needing treatment and really just being a stressed out parent?
You know, there's a huge stigma that goes along with this as well, Sean, and you actually interviewed a mom for your article that was going to join us on this show, and she backed out. What kind of backlash did she get?
Well, you just mentioned it earlier. The story went live online about 48 hours ago, and we're up to about 900 comments, the majority of which were, you know, rather vitriolic and very judgmental. And the mom who was going to appear with me today was getting a lot of direct feedback, a lot of negative feedback from those comments, was getting contacted directly, and I think she just didn't feel comfortable putting herself out there in the spotlight. One of the other moms I interviewed for the story spoke to me under the condition of anonymity, and her concern was that if a mom in her neighborhood reads this story, she's worried that they're not going to let their kids come down for a play date because it's going to be the mom who's catatonic in the back bedroom, or the mom that's locked up in the bathroom weeping. And again, I think we're learning through this story that there's a lot about mental health, specifically through the prism of parenting, that we need to pay attention to.
You know what's so unfair, though, is for you know, folks just don't, so many people don't understand that sometimes it's okay to get a little help to deal with these things. You know, that it's so easy to judge and say, oh my gosh, why are you taking a pill, when you haven't been there. I mean, there's... Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this has been a very big topic of conversation, as you can guess, with us over the past few days. And I think the difference is that you can't put a cast on depression or an anxiety. It's a hidden enemy. It's something that you're not going to see walking through a grocery store or going to a play date or walking through the halls of your kid's school. It's just something that you're not going to see. And it's a lot. If I were doing a story about moms with high blood pressure or moms with heart disease, I wouldn't be on your show. No one would really be paying attention. But somehow there's this question about, because we can't see this particular problem, it's a little harder to understand. And I think most of the moms who I spoke to for the story, who didn't even appear in the article, they live in the shadows. They don't talk about it publicly, even to a lot of their own family members. So I think we have a long ways to go to understand.
Well, I'll tell you what, I thank you personally for tackling this in Parenting Magazine. You put so much time and research, Sean. You did such a great job. Thank you so much for talking with me about it.
Hey, thanks for having me.